More clips of what's going on with impeachment. Here is Jay Sekulow. I don't know how to pronounce his name. He is the brother of the guy that we played a clip of yesterday who really seemed to be extremely distracted on television. And Sekulow is making a very strained argument. I mean, they've been going back and forth with this stuff. They've been having a lot of problems because I think they went into this week assuming that the way they were going to play this was, look, we're going to pretend that this really didn't happen. We're going to argue on the facts that he didn't do a quid pro quo. We're going to play Sondland saying, I presumed it was a quid pro quo. Everything that I gathered was a quid pro quo. The only time he said the words quid pro quo were when he said, I wasn't doing it. So you had Sondland in there who basically was saying, like, I observed all these things that led me to believe it was a quid pro quo. But when I asked him, he said, no, it's not. And so that's what I think they were hanging their hats on. And then John Bolton's book leaks, and they have a problem. And so Sekulow, I don't think he had the time to change what he was going to do.
You cannot impeach a president on an unsourced allegation. But what Professor Dershowitz was saying, even if everything in there was true.
All right, so pause it. He is saying that the allegation is unsourced. That is the allegation. He's talking about the manuscript. The manuscript that was sourced to John Bolton. It's John Bolton's manuscript. If they are worried about the allegation being unsourced, there's a way to remedy that. That is, announce that you're going to vote to have John Bolton come in. And this is a problem for him. So they have to move to this Dershowitz argument, which is bizarre. And people have made this point. But here, let's hear Sekulow sort of pivot here. So go back to the beginning. So we'll just hear.
Now, to be specific, you cannot impeach a president on an unsourced allegation. But what Professor Dershowitz was saying, even if everything in there was true, it constitutionally doesn't rise to that level. But I want to be clear on this, because there's a lot of speculation out there. With regard to what John Bolton has said, which referenced a number of individuals, we'll start with the president. Here's what the president said in response to that New York Times piece. I never told John Bolton that the aid to Ukraine was tied to investigations into Democrats, including the Bidens. In fact, he never complained about this at the time of his very public termination. If John Bolton said this, it was only to sell a book. The Department of Justice. While the Department of Justice has not reviewed Mr. Bolton's manuscript, the New York Times account of his conversation grossly mischaracterizes what Attorney General Barr and Bolton discussed. There was no discussion of personal favors or undue influence on investigations, nor did the Attorney General state that the President's conversations with foreign leaders were improper. The Vice President's Chief of Staff issued a statement. In every conversation with
we don't even have to. All he's doing is saying we have one story that everybody's arguing, call the witness. They're afraid to do it. He doesn't realize that he's making an argument to bring in a witness. And as far as Dershowitz's argument is, there's no such thing as abuse of power if you're a president. The president can do whatever he wants. If the president decides that he wants to, the people are using this example with Alaska, and the president decides he wants to give it to Alaska to Russia, he can do that. No, he can't. Or to the extent that he can, this is what this whole trial is about. This is a political process, and everyone knows it, and everybody was talking about that. And it's a political process. We're making a political determination. Where are we drawing the lines as to what constitutes abuse of power if you're the president? I happen to think that there's about a half a dozen other things they could include in this argument. They wanted to keep it simple, fine. But the bottom line is, the defenses that they have are lame.
How is it that the White House had this manuscript checking for, intelligence and things like that, like national security concerns for a month, and the the White House defense seems to be completely flat-footed?
Easy. They just thought, we're not going to tell anybody about it.
But not even your defense?
Oh, they knew
you're
about
coordinating
it.
with?
They knew about it, but what is there to say? I mean, other than like if it leaks, I'm going to say he's just writing it for a book. I mean, they're doing the only defense they can. But the fact is you have over a dozen people who basically say, everything I saw looked like a duck. And now John Bolton is like, yeah, he told me it was a duck. He said, I'm going to build a duck. I mean, there's no, what is the other evidence that you could have? Like literally, like, oh, here's a receipt from Donald Trump saying you gave me part, I'm not giving you part of the bribe until you give me the other part of the bribe. That's about it.